Okay, well, thank you for everyone for joining us on our last webinar before our summer break. We're really excited to be able to fit in today's talk. In terms of upcoming events, we'll get the calendar out for you guys for the full schedule shortly, but this is going to be the last one coming up here for the rest of the summer. And no special announcements today. If you didn't get a chance to sign into our last session, that link is now up on the prior events page on the Capital webinar, Capital events page. And we'll just kind of get moving on today. So I'll hand it over to Samantha to introduce our guest speaker.
Yes, we have an AI expert from Ukraine. It's Oleksandr Gamaniuk. He's an entrepreneur, software engineer, and a founder of Instafill.ai. And that is an AI platform that automates the manual, repetitive work of filling out the PDF forms. And it's designed for professionals in legal, lending, compliance, and government-related fields. So take it away, Oleksandr.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Yes, hello everyone. My name is Oleksandr Gamaniuk. I am the CEO and founder of Instafill.ai. It's actually the last slide. Give me a second. So yeah, before we start, I'm recording this webinar with Fireflies AI. This is a tool that we also use internally to summarize meetings and do a transcript. So you'll have access to the transcript too. Since this webinar is about AI, I decided to mention this tool because it's great. I do use it. Who am I and why I'm talking about this? So in 2017, yeah, that's me. My wife and I, we started this company. We left our corporate software jobs. At that moment, we decided to build a marketplace that was used by marketing agencies to buy chatbot templates. So we had an audience of around 700 marketing agencies used us. Then in 2020, we created Tarta AI, is a job search assistant for the US market that automates job search. It was since 2020, it was used by 7 million people in the US. It's like 2-3% of adult population of the US. So it was quite popular. And then, as we all know, ChatGPT was introduced. We decided to join the party and see what can be done there. So we built around 20 ChatGPT plugins. Probably we were one of the biggest publishers, and we also had close to 200,000 users use our ChatGPT plugins. But again, we all know what happened next. OpenAI decided to discontinue ChatGPT plugins, so they are all gone now. And we had to ask ourselves what to do next. And one of the cases that I like the most is filling forms with AI. So at that moment, I had a ticket in California for $450. It was a speeding ticket. I decided to fight this ticket, and ChatGPT helped me to understand how to do that, was the procedure, but I still had to fill out the form. So I quickly created a script that actually did the form filling for me. And at that moment, term vibe coding didn't exist, but that's exactly what I did. I basically vibe coded a quick script that was the beginning of Instafill. So this is actually the form that I filled, and I could successfully fight the ticket and decrease my fine by 75%. So let's take a look at the problem itself and why we do Instafill.ai. So for the first look, it may look like forms. It's not that hard to fill out the form, especially if we are the ones who do that kind of job. But once we start delegating this to other people, we may see that they may not know our clients as we know perfectly, or they may not know some details about our company, or just simply have little understanding how a specific form should be filled. And also humans can, get sick, hungry, tired, distracted. It's not about AI. And also humans are not predictable. So AI can do job every single time we ask AI to do something, but humans are not that kind of things. So it's also about time. It may take, for the forms we know, it may take 8-10 minutes, but sometimes it takes like 40 or 1 hour. For a form, for the AI, it's always flat. So if we have all the data needed, if we have forms known by AI, it literally takes 50 seconds. And it's also cost efficient. So I looked into how much was the minimum wage in Canada. It's like $70. So AI is much more affordable for this kind of job. And also, it's also about scalability. So if you need to fill a big number of forms or complete a big number of documents in a very short period of time, we need a lot of human efforts for that. But for AI, it's not an issue. We can basically start 100 forms in parallel and do them at the same time. So in 5-10 minutes, all the job will be done. And again, it's all consistent. It's all very predictable. So this is the accuracy of how AI may fill forms. So when we started doing this kind of thing with Instafill.ai in 2023, it wasn't that great. It only worked for a single form, the one I mentioned for California court. But when we started introducing new forms, the accuracy wasn't that great. We had like 50-60%. Over time, OpenAI introduced new models like O1 reasoning models that took more time to think and actually reason, but it still wasn't that great. And it wasn't honestly production ready. But at the beginning of this year, we did some extra job and we were able to reach 95 and 100% for the majority of our forms. As for humans, AI may need time to understand how to fill out a specific form, like when we have an assistant that works for us and we ask to do some kind of job, we need to spend time explaining how things should work, how to do a specific job. The same for AI. We should expect that we need to provide some instructions for AI. We need to expect, review the results and maybe provide feedback. And once it's done, after 2-3 fields, we can expect 100% accuracy. It actually takes time, so this is how much time it takes to fill out the form. As you can see, these numbers are not decreasing, but I would say increasing, because there are actually a bunch of work that AI does for us. For instance, it can do formatting. We all have like SSNs, phone numbers, emails, addresses, names. So AI can do formatting, so it's always in the right form and shape. It can also do validation of forms, and so basically all the job that we do, AI does that too. So it takes time. And also it depends how much data we actually submit. Imagine that we need to fill out a document, but the source information is spread over like 10 PDF files or Excel spreadsheet and everything. So we need to spend time actually locating that specific piece of information that is needed to fill a specific field. So it takes time. For AI, the same. It's not that huge. It's about seconds, not minutes, not hours, but still AI also needs time to like analyze the documentation and source information. And also what worked for us, we not only like built a core technology that can accurately fill out forms, we also built a bunch of tools on top of the technology that also helps to fill form efficiently. So this is actually the procedure. In a moment, I will switch to a live demo. I will show you how it actually works. But basically, the first step is to have a fillable form. Sometimes form is not fillable. It means there are no interactive fields. It can be a scan. It can be a photo that we made by our phone. I don't know. it can be a printed document, so it's not a fillable form. So the first procedure is to convert it to a fillable form, so AI could actually see the fields and do something with those fields. We actually work on this step too. We want to automate it too, but right now it's like 70% automated because it's not that hard. It works perfectly for Word documents, but for some other documents it's not that easy. So we still need to detect all those inputs. The next step is to actually upload a form to AI and give it time to add some meaning to every single field. For instance, let's say we have 100 fields in the form, and AI will spend time analyzing what each field means, how it relates to some other fields in the form. What's the right order to fill out all those fields, and so on. Because sometimes not all fields have to be filled. Sometimes some of them should be skipped, or there may be conditions. The next step is to have the data. Of course, we need to upload our documents, or we need to copy and paste the data that we are going to use to fill out forms. So, of course, it's required. And then AI actually starts doing so. It takes, for small documents, like 20 seconds, for bigger documents, like a minute or 50 seconds. But that's basically all. So what I will do now, I will switch to Instafill.ai. I will show how it works. So for this case, I will be using some forms like vendor disclosure statement. So it's basically this form. As I can see, this form has 145 fillable fields, and our AI spent 250 seconds, like a few minutes, analyzing the forms and actually assigning the field meaning to all those fields. I don't know if you can see tooltips. Can you see tooltips when I hover the mouse over the fields? Can you see it? No? So basically, we have all the fields here, and AI did the job and assigned some name and description to every single field. That's a required step that is done automatically. Once we have that, AI has all the information that is needed to actually do the job. So, yeah, the first step is to upload the form. Yeah, this form is already known to our system, so it was uploaded in seconds, but for unknown form, it takes 15 minutes. Also, we need to prepare the data that AI will use to actually fill out the form. I used ChatGPT to generate some sample data for this particular form. So I basically submitted screenshots of every single page of this form and asked ChatGPT to generate me some data. So I have it here. And then I decided to create a profile. In our system, profile means something that can be reusable. So it can be a profile for a client, it can be a profile for our own company that later can be used. So let's create a new profile and paste the data that I have from ChatGPT. So now AI looks at this data that we submitted. Yeah, it assigned a name for this profile. And now, once we have the form in the system, we can actually fill it out with AI. So to do this, I have to... There are multiple ways how we can fill out the form, but in this case, let's fill it out with a profile that I have created. So the procedure was started. In this case, it will take up to 1 minute. Let's wait. Yeah, as I said, we can feed any type of information to the AI. We can submit like plain text. we can upload spreadsheets, PDF files, Word documents. And what's interesting, if we upload some kind of documents like credit score documents that have some graphics, some charts, it can be processed by AI too, and AI can see the relation between some data in those files. So it's not only about plain text, so we can submit actually data in various formats.
Alexander, can I just ask you right now, what's the data that you've fed into this system?
Yeah.
So what's it looking at?
Yeah. So I asked ChatGPT to generate sample data that is needed.
Okay, this is just sample data. Okay.
Yeah. We don't have access to the data that our client submits, so of course I'm not.
Right. And I presume that if you had an actual file, perhaps it would be the application, the mortgage application, or perhaps like a multiple listing form for the real estate, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so you can upload data in various formats. You can even have a spreadsheet where each row will represent a piece of data about client, and like you may have 100 rows in a spreadsheet, and it will then produce you 100 PDF forms filled. Or you may have an Excel file with sheets that will represent a new client, a separate client. So you have like also a bunch of forms filled at the end of the day. But yeah, for AI, it doesn't really matter what's the format of the data, because at that moment, AI knows everything about this form, so it's not that hard to fill it out. So yeah, it's done. It took a little bit more than 1 minute. Yet the reason why, because there are actually a bunch of information, and the form is not that simple. I mean, it's not that difficult, but still there are how many? 5 pages and 150 fields. So let's check. So even if we submit others in like incorrect format, AI has no troubles converting in the specific format that government expects from us. So it's all doable. And the same for numbers and SSN numbers, as I mentioned, it does formatting. And also AI is capable to understand that this checkbox needs to be checked because we have this piece of information. And also AI can handle conditions like this one. So if we say no here, we need to like explain why. It's this data set that I generated, this ChatGPT didn't have the reason, but in case if you have it, it would be submitted to this field with no issues. So AI can also handle tables. This particular form doesn't have any tables, but just in case if you have like tables in our PDF files, it can be handled too. So AI can understand that they need to be processed in a specific way. So that's basically how it works. Not all the fields are filled because not all information were submitted. It's not like what I wanted to do. But in case if you have all the information and it should be here, yeah, AI will figure out how to do that. But again, this is just the core technology. To make it efficient, to make sure we are changing the way we work, we need to have some tools on top of the technology, because we all have like some workflows, we all have some procedures that we used to, that we work for years. So there are a little mental shift need to happen to make sure we switch to AI tools. And there is also a friction of trust, so we need to trust AI. But in this case, when we use ChatGPT online, I wouldn't recommend to submit any data, any sensitive data here, because OpenAI may use the data to do some fine-tuning and training of their models. But if you use apps that are built on top of AI, the data is not used by OpenAI because it's like API enterprise use case, and they don't train based on API use. So we are Tier 5 partner of OpenAI. We rely a lot on their models. So the data they use to fill out those forms, it can be sensitive, but so it's not used for fine tuning for training.
Franca is asking, where is the data stored? So you've got this. I guess a couple of questions. So I think you've just confirmed, that this under your Instafill system doesn't go into the open AI data. But where would this then be stored? Where would you find it?
Yeah, so first of all, there is a way to use our system without storing any data at all. So basically, you have to go to forms and fill out the form, and there is a checkbox that we can check, and then we can copy and paste data here and fill out the form. In this case, nothing is going to be stored, but in this case, some of the features of the system will not be available. So later, if you want to come back to the system and see what data we use to fill out a specific form and maybe fill out another form or fill out that form again with some changes, it's not be available. It will not be available. So only when we use profiles, we do actually store data, but it's stored on our servers, it's encrypted. Our physical servers are in Texas, but we use Microsoft infrastructure for that. So basically we can use any other locations. For instance, we work with some banks in New Zealand, and they had a requirement to make sure their data never leaves New Zealand. So we had to set up a little environment in New Zealand for them. So that's all doable. Regarding OpenAI, we do rely on OpenAI for that, but we use their API solution. So there is an agreement that says that they don't use that data to train their system. So it's safe to use their API.
Okay, so it looks to me like the form you just completed is stored under an Instafill directory. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
Like this is the dashboard you've got?
Yeah, once the form is completed, you can see it over here. It can be deleted from here. So, but in case if you need to come back, you can open this session. You'll see the data. You can download the physical PDF file. And once it's done, yeah, it can be deleted. We also have a policy that automatically deletes all the data in 7 or 20 days or whatever you can set up. Because in our case, we don't care about this data. Yeah, this is the form, you can download it, and yeah, you basically don't need it anymore in our system. So it's not our business to like look at the data or store, like steal the data. Our business is like building tools on top of AI. So we are perfectly fine with that. And the data, even if it's stored on our service, it's encrypted. Every single customer has like its own unique key that is used to encrypt the data and decrypt data. So for now, when I open the profile, this data is encrypted when it's stored, but it's decrypted again when it's displayed to a user, so a user can see it and change it. So when I make changes and click save, it's encrypted again. But in general, this is actually quite standard procedure. So there are like some standards that our team had to implement to make sure the system is secure. So we didn't reinvent a wheel in this case. We just followed some standard procedures of how to transfer data between browser and our servers, how to save it, when to save it, how to set up automatic deletion policies and stuff like that. For small users, it may be fine. They don't really care about it. But once we approach like bigger companies, they have like some policies, of course, that we have to follow.
Is there a place, so you're feeding information like an MLS, multiple listing sheet, or a mortgage commitment into this? Is there some place where it tells you what you fed it? And are those documents stored anywhere on this, in this system?
Yeah, for this we use profiles. So basically you can create a bunch of profiles. You can create those profiles based on some data, some files. So you upload the files, and based on them will be created profiles. So basically this is the only place that is used for this. And again, once the form is filled, yeah, you have the filled form that actually contains not the source files, but the information from those source files.
Mm-hmm.
Is it what you're asking?
Yes.
In your source files, what if you had a PDF that was scanned? Would it be able to read data off of that?
If you want to use that PDF as a source of data, yes. We don't use OCR. OCR is like technology from 90s that was used to understand scanned text and convert it to text. We get rid of that technology and we actually improved the accuracy. So for now, we use actually AI to look at scanned PDFs, because PDFs are not like typical documents. We may have like a bunch of sections, they may relate one to each other. So yeah, we work with files, and as far as I remember, they even converted to images when they are processed. So this is how it works. But yeah, PDFs, text files, Word documents, spreadsheets, everything works.
Do you have any use cases right now of law firms that are using this, particularly in like real estate or conveyancing?
Yeah, actually, legal use case is one of the most repeatable use cases that I love. Even small agencies, they do automate their processes completely. I'm not sure about real estates. I need to check, because we have more and more clients. I cannot check and chat with all of them, but real estate, I mean, legal use cases, maybe 50 or 60% of all our customers. It's a horizontal app. It means it can be used by multiple industries. So we have farms, we have food trucks, but mostly it was used for legal use cases, because legal is expensive, and yeah, many agencies are happy to delegate this kind of job to AI. And again, for some of the clients, we set up webhooks. So for instance, they receive information from their clients in some standard form, like they use Google Forms or they use some other software to get information from their customers. So once it's submitted, it's automatically sent to our system, and our system looks at the data and automatically fills out the form. So basically, some of the customers don't even touch Instafill.ai. They never log into the system. They just got an email from us with a filled form, because we use some kind of webhooks and API to integrate with some other third-party systems like Google Forms.
Alexander, there are some forms that are used in the mortgage industry. One of them is a cost of credit form, and it contains many of the same bits of information as this Form 9, but there's some computation required. So there's some, like an annual percentage rate needs to be calculated. How does an AI form filling system work with those calculations? Is the system smart enough to know how to calculate it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, a couple notes here. So Canada, one of the countries that use XFA forms. It looks like a PDF form, but it's actually interactive. It has a bunch of drop downs and some interactive fields, some conditions. In this case, it's not a typical PDF form, and our AI doesn't support that kind of forms. I saw those forms in Canada. I don't know what specific locations of them, maybe Quebec, I don't know, but they exist. And point number two, AI today doesn't do calculations. So we expect our users to do that kind of job, submit the data, and then AI will figure out how to fill out the form. But for instance, for tax forms, we don't do calculations, so we cannot do that. We may do that maybe in 6-12 months, but not for now, because it's so easy to make a mistake and miscalculate something. So we decided not to touch that for now. So yeah, this is how it looks today. what we are focused on is mostly accuracy, because it doesn't make sense to do any kind of tools on top of the core technology if accuracy is bad. But this year we were able, I have a slide for this, we were able to reach a good percentage of accuracy even from the very first shot. It means when you upload a form, you submit your data, and from the very beginning you can expect a very good accuracy. But again, after a couple of iterations, we always do that. We actually reach 100%. And now, yeah, it does make sense to create tools on top of the technology that automates and makes our work actually efficient, because again, some use APIs, some use webhooks, some want to log into the system. There's also an opportunity to send an email to Instafill.ai and have a reply with a filled form. So you actually receive an email with attached PDF that is actually filled. So again, it works exactly as humans work. So an assistant can send you a document. So the same here. One more feature I forgot to mention is batch filling. This is how we fill out a bunch of forms at once. So basically, it's also about the efficiency. So I can open this form and fill it using Excel file. That has a bunch of rows. Yeah, this one. So yeah, this is Excel file with maybe a dozen of rows, and I can generate PDFs individually for every single record in this spreadsheet, or I can click this button and in a few minutes have 10 PDF files as output of this job. Again, sometimes it works for some people. I actually expected less people use it, but I see like 40 or 50% of people actually use this feature too. So sometimes it's very handy. Yeah, sometimes it takes time, up to a couple of minutes, but once the procedure is done, once it's finished, the system should send an email that will say that it's all done. Go and check out the results. Yeah, once it's filled, some other example, you'll basically have exactly the same form at the end of the day. So it can be also downloaded with some data, or it can be downloaded as flat form when the fields are not editable anymore and can be printed. We can also add signature automatically to this kind of forms too. So basically, in this case, there is no need to use some external software like Adobe Reader, Adobe Acrobat, or some other software to sign documents. It can be signed here automatically too. So this is how the system works. This is what we do with this kind of technology. I believe this is one of the most popular use cases. We all see that AI today is used to generate images, generate text and video. It's also used for AI SDR. Many people figured out how to sell using AI, so basically automate email outreach and stuff like that. But filling of forms is a huge use case. Basically, everyone who works with government, they may use the AI to do this kind of job. And maybe in future we will work, I don't know, we still didn't do that, but we may work with government to do some kind of reverse to make them actually automatically process all the forms we submit to them, because there are people that also sit and look at all those values and maybe do some kind of manual job transferring this data to some other system, because PDF forms, PDF files are not so easy to parse. So maybe we could provide them exactly the same piece of technology, but it will be reversed.
That's actually a really interesting point that you mentioned. Just in general, I'm wondering if how safe AI is from cyber attacks. Someone who wants to perhaps alter the information in these AI generated systems. So I imagine that safety and security are pretty key.
To be honest, it's not about the AI. So the safety of software products that live in a cloud exist for 20 plus years since cloud was invented. So in this case, the only difference is that we use some API, some AI models to submit data. But when we do that kind of work, this data is not stored, because those LLMs, they are huge and they don't store any data. They just suggest what's the next token, what's the next word, what's the next sentence. So if someone actually wants to break LLM, they need to do it in a different way. The way I understand, so OpenAI and other companies, they partnered with Microsoft. They get huge amount of data from Microsoft. So the data you see in ChatGPT was populated initially by Bing, the search engine by Microsoft. So they basically bought a huge amount of data. They trained their models. So the way their models behave depends on the information that was fed to those models. So there is a rule that is called trash in, trash out. So if you submit a very bad, low quality information to the AI and train your models on top of that information, of course, the result will be bad quality too. For instance, if you train AI on fake information, it will produce fake results and fake information too. So there is a risk of that. But in this case, we use already trained models. So basically, we don't alter them, we don't modify them, we just use them. We just give them a task to provide us instructions of how to fill a specific field. So we basically fill out field by field. If someone really wants to affect how LLMs work, they need to produce a bunch of information, publish it online, and then that information will be fed to LLM models when OpenAI or other LLM provider will release a new model, and then it may be inconsistent or maybe unsafe. But in this case, it's just a regular software product that follows pretty much standard practices that was developed 20 plus years ago when cloud first introduced.
I've got a couple of follow-up questions for you. You mentioned that signing can actually happen within this as well. Can you touch on that? And I'm just curious, how can you, or how do you address the security of the signature, right? Because some situations, like with DocuSign, you actually get a certificate saying, yes, this was sent to this email and it was, signed by this person at this date and time. How do you address that with the signature function? Yeah,
between us, it's all those companies that provide e-signatures, they basically use exactly the same technologies. So what they do, they take a PDF file and they do a drawing. So basically, they do stuff like this. So it's a signature. But what they did on top of that, they record the IP addresses that were used. They when someone opens an email and clicks this button and that button, they add this kind of features on top of that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be just a PDF file that is binary, that it can be opened only by a specific software like Adobe Reader, Adobe Acrobat. But again, it's just an image that is drawn on top of PDF file. So we do this kind of signatures exactly the same way like other companies do, because we use the same frameworks, but we don't store signatures. So for now, it's not possible to save an image of a signature and reuse it. So it's basically safe. So we just produce a document, you sign it, and nothing is stored. You just have a PDF document.
And can you talk a little bit more about, you mentioned there's a functionality of sending an email to Instafill and then having a return email back with the filled form. I'm really curious about that function.
Yeah. It's not automatically available for every single customer, but basically for every single form you have in your system, we will generate a unique email address that will basically have ID of this form at Instafill.ai. So basically it will look like this. I don't know, can you see what I'm typing here?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so basically it will be an email that you need to send the information you have, and then AI will use this ID to locate the form and basically trigger the process of filling the form. Once it's done, it will reply back with a filled form, like physical file, and a link to Instafill.ai, so you can log in and check out and maybe do some adjustments. What's great about here, so sometimes AI does the job, but we humans, we may forgot to submit some information. So we can come back here and actually make some changes and do some extra typing and then download the file. So that's why we send a file that is filled and also a link to the session that can be changed. But it works very simple. Yeah, we just listen to emails. Once we have an email, we take an ID and fill out the form.
Okay. And when you're talking about you can do the editing right within Instafill, is there a way that if you see, okay, yeah, you know what, I didn't put that information in, or that wasn't in the commitment letter or the appraisal or whatever it is, right? Like, so I need to add that. Can you just, I guess, add that back into the input field and run that again? Or do you need to start over with a new form?
Yeah, you have options. You can modify it immediately over here. You can make some changes. You can update the data that you have here. You can add some extra data. You can additionally attach files. So at the same time, you may have instructions here and you may have files. And what's great about this text input, it may work as a source of data. It may also work as a prompt that we use in ChatGPT. So basically you can say, don't fill out this block or change this address because it's updated. So you can do this kind of stuff. And also, Shannon, if you remember for your forms that you used some of the fields that we have in the system they didn't have the correct name. So we had to review this kind of description and modify it. So this is why 100% accuracy may not be achievable from the first attempt, because just a name or a description of a field may be incorrect. So we just fixed that, and any user can do that by themselves without even asking us to do that. So just update the description, and then we can rerun the field, and it will fix the issue. And we can also ignore some of the fields. For instance, let's say we are not filling a specific field or a section. We just can ignore these fields and they will not be sent to AI at all. So there are multiple options here how to do that. So yeah, feel free to test the system, upload all your forms. For now, we may have like a couple of forms, but we may have hundreds. We are onboarding a big enterprise client that has 2,000 forms, and we like have tools that will allow to import a big number of forms, and then AI will do the learning of how to fill out those forms. So it's all doable. It works like for a big scale. It's not like humans that we need to assign every single task. We can basically pick many forms and fill them all at once too, using the profiles that we have created before. So we can do that too. Yeah, for this case, it doesn't make sense because the forms I just checked they don't have the information in the data set to fill out these forms, but yeah, that's doable too. So that's what we have now. That's what we're working on. Yeah, the next step for us is to keep improving the accuracy, because sometimes every single week we still see unique forms that exist in some strange shape, and our system needs to be like adapted somehow. So we change algorithms, but in general, it's more about accuracy and a little bit about tools that we build on top of the technology. Because ChatGPT is great, but it doesn't do the actual job. It doesn't fill forms. It can provide answers. And it also is not aware about context. So in this case, yeah, we may have profiles that were created, so we can reuse that information. Yeah. In ChatGPT, we have to submit every single time all the information that we need to use. But in general, yeah, it may be a good combo, yeah, to use tools like ChatGPT and Instafill to actually do the job, to replace some human hours.
So where do people find the Instafill? I presume it's on the internet. And how do they try it? Sign up for it? How do they give it a go?
Yeah, there are multiple ways how our users find us today. We try to do search engine optimization. So only in California there are 100,000 unique forms exist on all government websites. So basically we create like a bunch of forms for a bunch of pages for every single form, and when someone's looking for a specific name, and they find us. But yeah, the easiest way is to go just to Instafill.ai and sign up and start using the system. It's also fun. I try to ask ChatGPT, Perplexity, and some other AI tools, and they do recommend Instafill.ai as a solution to fill out forms. So basically, if you go to Instafill.ai and ask what's the best way to fill out PDF forms with AI, it will recommend Instafill.ai because it's a solution. So there are multiple ways how people discover us. And that was funny, because for all the products that I have built before, we relied mostly on Google. And like 90% of all the users that we had, they came from Google. But now it's all changing. Less people are coming from Google and more are coming from ChatGPT. And what's interesting, the quality, if you can say so, the quality of those customers are very great, because when someone asks a question in ChatGPT is not only giving you a blue link as Google did for 20 plus years. It also explains why to use a specific piece of software and why to use it and what are the use cases. Then you can follow up questions. So the accuracy, the quality of those customers is very, very high. But yeah, the easiest way is just to go in Instafill.ai, sign up and check out how the system works. We have a great self-service demo that so users can upload their forms, submit their data, and see how the system works even without providing the correct information, anything like that. So it's so easy to check out.
That's really great. I mean, having tools like this that are able to increase people's productivity and free them up to do more value-added work, especially in an industry like ours, which is, very regulation heavy, very document heavy, I think just creates opportunity for a competitive advantage.
Yeah, we still have to change our habits a little bit, honestly. But again, in future, it's so easy to imagine that this kind of job is completely automated by some kind of AI. Because again, I don't want to call it monkey job, because there are still expertise needed to do this job correctly. But this kind of job, I mean, look at what we delegate to AI now. Image generation. Many people like drawing or producing some, stories, but this is what AI does. This kind of job is honestly maybe boring, maybe repetitive, maybe not that we want to do. So it's great to just give it away to AI and ask to do this for us.
Okay, well, if there's no questions, then maybe we can wrap up a little bit early today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you so much for the demonstration and showing us some of the use cases that you have in your system.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye, Shannon. Bye, Samantha. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.